Welcome back. I am Olga Peters, and of course, this is Green Mountain Mornings. It is 68 degrees outside and 8:24 on your Tuesday. I'm in the studio with Chris Mays from The Reformer. Welcome back, Chris. And we were talking about fire service in Wilmington. They just received some grants to get some great thermo imaging cameras.
Yep.
But they're also working on filling their fire chief position.
Yeah, they had this facilitated process. They had Dave Larson. He's a former state rep. He came in and he talked with the firefighters. He talked with the town staff, and they tried to figure out whether a full-time fire chief was necessary after Ken March left the department, and he kind of left with things not so good. People weren't happy with each other. I guess there was a little bit of infighting, but now I'm told that, things are healing up and they're getting more participation than before. And now they've basically agreed the town is looking for a full-time fire chief, and they're starting within the department first.
Oh, interesting. Do you happen to know how big the department is?
I'm not sure. Yesterday there were 17 firefighters present for the instruction.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know how many they have.
Mm-hmm. And Wilmington's an interesting town because it is certainly not as large as, say, Brattleboro.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not small either, and it also has to deal with the influx of tourism.
Right.
So the population might be, 1,000 one day and then 5,000 on a weekend.
Or more sometimes.
Did the board or anyone involved in the fire service kind of talk about how that might affect what they do for service?
Well, for some time, there's been some concerns expressed about having a lack of volunteers, not having a lot of people show up on calls. But that number seems to be going up now, which they're really happy about, because for a little while they were talking about we might have to merge with another department because it's not viable to continue with this low participation.
Right. Yeah, I've talked to a number of fire chiefs about this, where traditionally the town has had a volunteer service,
mm-hmm.
and now because of people's jobs and how far they have to commute to work, you'll get a call and it almost automatically goes to mutual aid because maybe one person shows up and you just can't fight a fire with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. So I'm sorry, I don't remember if you said this, but do they have a timeline for filling the chief position?
Not yet. They just announced that they were going to start looking, and I think they got the job description all written up. So now it's going out there, and they've said they want to reach out to the people who are within the department first, which isn't something they've done in the past. The last two fire chiefs have come from outside the department, so they want to see how this will work out.
Oh, interesting. Well, good. Wish them the best of luck. Now, we also talked, and I know this news is a little old, but it's new to me.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, Wilmington was without a town manager,
mm-hmm.
and about mid-August, they hired a new one.
Yeah, Scott Tucker.
Which, second Scott, I guess that's a good luck name.
I think so, yeah.
So what can you tell me about this new town manager?
Well, he comes from, I think he's worked over 30 years with the Rutland Town Police Department. He's basically been community affairs officer there. And yeah, he's off to a good start. He's learning about the 1% fund and how it's used and how much is in it. And also he's been working with department heads just figuring out goals for the coming year.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And remind me about the process. I know Gretchen Haverluck was the interim town manager for quite a while.
Right.
Did a lot of people apply to the job, or was it easy for them to find the town manager?
Ooh, I forgot. There were a lot of interviews. I can tell you that much. I remember. I want to say they got something like 80 applications. I can't remember it right now. It was some
Wow.
time ago, but for a while, all I saw was warnings coming in for executive sessions with the select board and all these candidates, and it seemed like there was a lot of interest in the position.
That's really interesting, since some other towns like Brattleboro, before they hired Peter Elwell, really struggled to find a good candidate.
Yeah. And I think there were a bunch of other towns looking for town managers at the same time, so they were a little worried. That's what they heard from Vermont City League of Cities and Towns.
Interesting. Have you heard the new Scott talk at all about why he took this position?
I think he was just interested in doing something else. You know, he had a friend who worked in Wilmington, and he thought it would be a cool community to work with. And I think it was just time for him to take retirement and try something else on.
Well, I wish him luck, because the Deerfield Valley, I can say this because I grew up there.
Right.
And you still live there?
Right. Yeah, I live in Dover.
It's a unique area because, like, you've got the locals, but then you have the tourist economy. And it's a really interesting mix of people and needs, actually.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about the old school building in Wilmington.
Yeah. There's a community group called OSEC, Old School Enrichment Council, and they've become a nonprofit recently, and they want to turn the building into a community center, and it's going to take a few $1 million ultimately, but they want to start with they asked the select board for $98,000 from the 1% fund, holding the local 1% option tax revenue.
Right.
And the select board said no. They rejected it for now, just because they didn't necessarily reject it, but they said we can't do this because you don't own the building, and because it exceeds a threshold. It's the request. The figure was over 20% of what the fund currently holds.
Oh, interesting.
So that would trigger a townwide vote, if they wanted to continue with the request.
Okay. Wow. Well, for folks who haven't been following the old school in Wilmington story, just a little bit of context for you before we head on to our next break. The school used to be the high school, and it's got two sections, a very old section that's probably, 100 years old now?
Yeah.
And then a newer section, which is probably, 1980s?
Yeah, I think so.
And the school system closed it a few years ago when they consolidated with Whitingham into Twin Valley. And this building, which is huge, it's probably as big as the Brooks House, has just been standing empty. And there's been a lot of back and forth about what can this actually become, and how do we make it an asset and not just, something that stands there and rots.
Yeah, the school district had the supervisory union, the Southwest Supervisory Union, relocate their offices there. And lately they've been able to open the gym up. So OSEC has been happy to report that they have, 600 hours annually use of the building right now.
Fantastic. Well, we have to go on to the local news, and we will be back in a moment. Hello, beautiful people. It is 68 degrees out there, 8:41 on your Tuesday. I'm Olga Peters, and this is Green Mountain Mornings. And I am in the studio right now talking with Chris Mays from The Reformer. Welcome back, Chris.
Thanks.
We were if you're just joining us, we were previously speaking about Wilmington and some of the changes there. And I was hoping now to go on to Brattleboro, and some of the issues that the select board has been dealing with there. What for those who have been living under a rock, what are some of the highlights from the Brattleboro Select Board meeting?
Well, the town manager just released a report on diversity, inclusiveness, and equity, which a lot of people support and really applauded his work on it. He worked with a lot of people in the community on what the town could do.
And just for a little context, this is a follow-up report to conversations that started earlier in the summer around how the town recruits its staff and how it can recruit people of color better because there are no staff in Brattleboro, town municipal staff who are people of color.
Yeah. And then it turned into how can the town help the community, reach this similar goals.
Wow, interesting. And so what were some of the takeaways of this report?
Well, they want to hire a human resources employee, someone who can help them with these employment goals. That's something that's going to be coming up in budget talks. Some other things they added to their job descriptions. They put more language in there, really welcoming people, trying to really make a point that they want to be a diverse workplace.
Fantastic. And so forgive my ignorance, but does Brattleboro have a HR department, the town? I always assumed they did.
I don't know if the town does. I think that the police department does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this would be a really brand new position then if they hired an HR person.
Yeah, and they were talking about it maybe if it can be a part-time position, have the person do something else too for the town. So it'll be interesting to hear those talks.
Anyone in the audience kind of speak to the report? What was some of the feedback?
Oh, there were a lot of people from the community.
Good.
Curtis Reed Jr., he said congratulations to the town. He said he'd like to see more about timetables and how specific goals can be reached, but he said it was a really good first step. And a lot of the board members agreed with that it was a good first step. And then people from the community applauded Peter Elwell, the town manager, on his really dig deep approach to this.
And it is good to note when the conversations started earlier this summer, I got the impression from a number of the people in the audience that there was a point where Peter Elwell said, "Hey, folks, can we slow down? We need more. I need more information as the town manager. We need to really understand what the town is doing well now, what it's not doing well. So can we kind of put the brakes on this process, and I'll come back to you with more information?" And I got the impression from some audience members that worried them, that they were afraid the process would just kind of dissipate and not amount to anything. So it sounds to me, too, that Elwell kind of kept a promise here.
I think you're right about that, yeah.
What's the next step?
I think they want to expand this network they have of people who get job listings, and then those people also disseminate it. So they're hoping that they'll reach a broader audience with that and get some more people interested in town positions.
That's right. Didn't they put something on their the town website that if you wanted to sign up, you could get job listings from the town and then send it on to any of your network?
Yeah, and they also added some listings to the website. They have a whole section devoted to diversity, inclusion, and equity now.
Oh, interesting.
And they've put all these community organizations, most of them Peter Elwell has met with representatives of.
And that sounds like an important step because if I remember correctly, part of the select board's concerns in the initial discussions was there are things the town can and cannot do legally around hiring.
Mhm.
And the need to be a diverse and welcoming community, it goes beyond what a select board can do, beyond their mandate. At least the select board felt that way. And so there was this need for town and community collaboration.
Yeah.
So that sounds like that's moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
At this point, what do you see as kind of the strengths in the process,
Well,
or the successes, or however you want to frame that?
well, they've already got 16 people into this network for the job listings, and Peter Elwell said, "I hope a lot more join this," and I think he expects more too. But I think those are good first steps. It'll be interesting to hear about the new position they want to create for human resources and what that person can bring to the table.
And when Curtis Reed Jr. asked about timetables, did Elwell or the select board have any responses to that?
No, it was just opened up to the public, so it was really just the community's time to share.
Perfect.
And it's good to note that Curtis was the person who brought it to people's attention. There was
Yes.
no staff members who were people of color, and he brought this up at a select board candidates forum.
Right, so that would have been around March.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's good to note as well. Wonderful. Anything else you wanted to add on that issue?
No.
Wonderful. So we have just a few more minutes. I wanted to touch on the plastic bag ban, because that was something that was passed by town voters
Mm-hmm.
in March.
Yep.
About people supporting banning plastic bags at retail stores, single-use plastic bags in Brattleboro.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, now it's going before the select board, and it has to go through that long process of building an ordinance.
Right.
So where are we with that?
Well, they're expecting to have a first reading soon. They brought the proposed ordinance to the meeting last Tuesday, and one of the store owners, Pal Borofsky from Sam's, he had some concerns. He wants to keep using his bags. He believes they're reusable. People are reusing them all the time, and he also he said customers like that they had this really strong handle. You know, they could walk around town to other stores while they're shopping. And he spoke about how it would really hurt his business economically if he had to buy all new bags. So now the board's considering the thickness of the bags they'll allow. And I think they're going to kind of work with business owners to make sure that nobody's going to be really hurt by this. And they're really focused on banning the single-use bags, ones that you probably only use once or twice, you know.
Right. And if this ordinance goes forward, what kind of timetable are we looking at? When would it go into effect?
I think the idea is to have it go into effect by July 1st, so 2018, the next fiscal year.
So we still have some time. So if people have concerns or questions, they could bring them to the board still.
Yeah, and that will definitely be the goal of the public hearings, the first reading.
And sorry, remind me when that is?
I'm not sure. I don't know if they've scheduled it just yet.
Oh, good. That means I didn't just blot the date out of my head. Moments after you said it. Now, there are some towns not in Vermont, but in Massachusetts who have banned plastic bags. Northampton is one.
Yeah, I think there's 60 municipalities or something like that, and they all kind of have slightly different ordinances, and they all have slightly and they don't all agree on the thickness of bags, but the town is aware of all those, and they're working, to come up with something that works for Brattleboro.
Wonderful. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Chris. We have run out of time, but it was really wonderful to talk to you.
You too.
Yeah, I can't wait for to meet Harmony, who I haven't met yet. She's your coworker who also comes in from the Reformer.
Yeah.
And of course, the next time we sit down, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Thanks, Chris. And right ahead, we have Pat Pagano and your morning weather.